Hi everyone. Well, another brief message from our messenger, and it is from March the 22nd, 2023 at my time 9:15 a.m. Good morning, Ash. This morning at 8:30 I was called to the kingdom. The white dragon is in battle with the red dragon. The dark ones are scrambling as they know that their battle is lost. Ezekiel said that they will become more obvious now with what they do as they attempt to saturate humanity with their low frequencies, to hold on to their crumbling matrix. The archangels and angels continue to release higher frequencies across the earth to assist humanity. Ezekiel said that we must prepare ourselves mentally and spiritually for the chaos ahead. Stay centered in love and joy. He also reminded me that we are protected under Yah. So a brief message, but always consistent, centered in love and joy. Those of you who know Yah, you have his total protection. And get on with your lives outside of what's coming down. Now, I had an interesting weekend. I was in Emerald for 3 days and 3 nights. Emerald is in central Queensland. While Yah was here, I had said to him a number of times over the years, we have to go to Emerald, we have to go to Emerald. And he would say, I am not going to Emerald. However, in the past, he also said he wasn't going to Nimba, nor was he going to Coolum Beach. And of course, we ended up in both of those places. But he did not come to Emerald with me this side of the veil, but we were certainly there with Yah, not visible, but very much with me. I listened to approximately 8 hours one way of Yah singing, because I put together all of the sound recordings that were on my phone. That's what he used, recording all of his songs that I uploaded from January the 12th, 2020. So I put them all together in one file that was something like 5 hours, 52 minutes just on that file. So I got to relive those moments and the conversation behind the scenes and the expletives and the many attempts to get something right, especially if he wasn't feeling the song. But so we had fun. And then in Emerald, why Emerald? Well, it was 18 years ago, 7 months and 2 days, that's from Saturday just gone by, that I had a telephone conversation with a man who was still on Vancouver Island in BC, Canada. I had arrived back in Australia after being away from Australia for almost 14 years, and I'd only been in the country it was about 3 weeks when speaking with Greg. And he was shown a map of Australia in his mind only. He's never been to Australia, knew nothing about the names of places, but he began to read from his mind place names beginning with Darling Harbour. And the last one on the map, as he was tracking a course, if you like, on the eastern side of Australia, coastal towns, then heading west inland, going up to Hughenden, and then the last stop on that course was Emerald, central Queensland. So I had said to Yah again, I just think we've got to go to Emerald. So I did, 3 days and 3 nights. The amazing thing is that when I was there, because I had been the previous weekend to Brisbane for 3 days and 3 nights, Amber came with me on that trek. We walked the Botanic Gardens in Brisbane. I'm rehearsing, so I know now, because Emerald is pretty much the only town in all central Queensland that does have Botanic Gardens. That's in the middle. You've got Rockhampton over on the coast. So, okay, I'm going to the Botanic Gardens. Now, moving right along from central Queensland. Many of you already know that Yah's bloodline comes through Ireland, Scotland, Ireland, Cornwall, back to Scotland, then over to Jerusalem to fulfill the prophecies of Isaiah. And it was Isaiah's, it wasn't Isaiah's, it was Zedekiah's daughters who were taken by their grandfather, the prophet Jeremiah. He took the girls to safety via Alexandria in Egypt, then to Spain, and then arriving in Tara Island, and it was by way of eclipse that they were able to recognize the date. And there is a stone having them arriving with a carving of the boat and the people in the boat. The date was October the 11th, 583 BC. Of course, in Yah's life, his mother Daphne, the most royal woman, she was reborn to the earth October the 11th, this time 1912. So, Ireland is called the Emerald Isle, beautifully green, different shades of green all over the island. Well, Emerald Central Highlands, Queensland, is called Emerald for the same reason, not because of the gems called emeralds, which are costly in the area. As a matter of fact, there's a town further west called Sapphire that I did go to the day after I went to the Botanic Gardens, but Emerald, Queensland was named after the green squares of paddocks and fields settled by Scottish and Irish fourth generation now living in the area, so their great-great-grandfathers and grandmothers having the fortitude and the endurance to plant their roots in that area and make it work. It was originally and still is strongly beef cattle area, and then but now it's becomes like the breadbasket for Australian table grapes through the A&L Romeo company, and then the fruit and vegetables from the La Costa group, another Italian family who settled in the area to produce oranges and fruit and vegetables. And I'm talking about thousands upon thousands of hectares in the area that supplies all of Australia, and they do export as well. So it was I enjoyed the time in Emerald. I was completely alone, solo, the first time since Yah left the building that I have been on my own. But as what it took me to find Yah, following the Blues Clues, I know that Yah has been busy making sure I have plenty of Blues Clues to keep my mind busy and occupied and keep me from feeling the sadness that I do if I'm left without engaging my brain in measuring. So the Botanic Gardens on the Saturday, it was about midday when I finally came across what I was looking for from the map on the board. Once I found the gardens, parked the car under the bridge, 6 kilometres of trails throughout the park of 420 hectares, which is 420,000 square metres. As it happens, 42 has featured largely, it means holiness, and was the CVV number on the back of Yah's card that arrived just days before he left in October. I carry it in my wallet everywhere, and I know he uses it as something to show me, as a sign, if you like. I read the signs everywhere, as you know. Alright, so in the middle of this park there's an area called the Bush Chapel, so I make my way there. Well, the Bush Chapel is a wooden cross. It looks very similar to the wooden cross we have in the backyard. I'll just bring it up to show you. And a total of 15 stones, 8 on one side, 7 on the other, standing upright like pillars on an angle coming away from the altar that houses the cross. A stone altar with 3 loose stones on them. I'll get up these pictures to show you. There's a close-up of the cross, the bush cross. Those of you who have seen the cross in our backyard will know that that is so similar. Let's see if I can get stones. Here's another one a bit further away. The stones, 7 and then 8 on each side. Now, there were also, you can see in the foreground of this photograph, those low stones in a semicircle. There were 5 of them. I take it they were stones for sitting on should there be a number of people, and the area was set up as a memorial for the generations that had gone before. These generations, families still in the area farming the land, and their forefathers, it was a memorial for them, and for, again, their fortitude, their courage, everything that it took to create Emerald and leave it for their families into what it is today. The population of the area, from memory, was around about 24,000 people, might be less, but anyway, it can be looked up. It's either 24 or 14, that number is so prevalent. Here's a bit of a close-up. You can see the pillars, 8 on one side and 7 on the other, with the 5 in a semicircle. And then after the bush chapel, there was a windmill. Now, I'll show you this windmill from the front once I find it. Alright, that's a photograph from the front side. Later, after I'd finished at the Bush Chapel, photographing from every angle, sitting on each one of those 5 seating stones, Yah told me to walk around behind the windmill, so I was able to take another shot. Now, what is particularly mind-blowing for me is the sign at the top. I focused in on it, and it says Southern Cross. Now, before I left Canada, remember I spent 14 years in North America, the last 8 years back in Canada, I had referred to Australia as the land of the Southern Cross, the Southern Crossing. We are in that portion of the Milky Way galaxy where the Southern Cross constellation is directly above Australia. And I always operated, because the clues were given through a play on words, riddles and rhymes, reducing everything to a measure of numbers, etc. That I only found out later, once I found, of course, what they all meant, but they were just burned into my brain, and that's where my brain began to pick up and comprehend the blues clues. So here it is, the sign of the Southern Cross, the one at the very top there. Now, many of you already know that I did a series of paintings, designs. I just started. It was all on my journey looking for Yah. In total, more than 40 of them, but one of them I called the Southern Cross, and it was a cross etched into the canvas on a gold, like cloudy gold sky, but the brown of the earth below this cross suspended in the sky, etched into the canvas, and then the lifting of what looks like dirt, filth, sin in my mind, the lifting of it away from the earth. And it was my nephew who looked at it and just immediately said the Southern Cross. So that's what I named that particular painting. So you can imagine what I was feeling this day, as now I'm in Emerald. But the kicker is that another cross, this, was sent to us from Chuka in the early weeks of 2022. This cross was taken from a display in a very old church in the Emerald Island, and placed in Chuka's hand. It was placed there by the girlfriend which she was actually with. She took it from the display, and this cross was leaning up against a piece of wood that was from the original cross of April the 3rd, 33 AD. She placed it in Chuka's hand, and then she took off. She dumped him, left him there alone with the others on the tour, and she disappeared. Chuka had no memory of this until he found it while cleaning out his home last year, found it and then remembered and started to remember the details of how he came across this, the girlfriend from the display. And then he goes on to tell the story that he put this cross in his jeans pocket, and he said it grew warm, and it led him. They left that church, went to another old area where there were stony structures, another ancient area, stony structures, and this cross grew warm in his pocket. He went over to what he saw was like a stony structure coming from the ground, but he said as he approached, the entire area was illuminated in a white light that engulfed the other Australians on the tour, and he bent over to put his hand into what he thought was a solid stony structure when he said his hand passed through it as if it were a hologram. However, a part of it broke off and hit his hand, fell to the ground, so he picked it up thinking, well, this must be for me. So he came away from Ireland in 2006, brought the cross from the old church and that what he called sparkle stone. He sent the cross to us wrapped in an emerald cloth inside a cedar box, and all of you know that cedar is associated with royalty. He knew that they belonged to Yah. So Yah wore this for some time, and we had it on Yah's side table, his side of the bed. And then when Yah left the building, I began to wear it around the town. I immediately put it on. And the effect of me wearing this cross on a particular encounter, when I knew that I was in conversation with Beelzebub, I won't tell you what the conversation was. However, it is playing out now. That the two witnesses that were with me in this conversation saw him back away. And he, because he was looking at this, and I also described our house as having the life-size cross in the backyard and the two silver crosses either side of the garage. You can't miss it, I said. As he kept saying, I know 99, 2 doors away. Well, the Swedge lives in 9, but he couldn't for the life of him. He didn't know 103 North Shore. I know 99, he said. He said that night, it wasn't night, it was a Sunday afternoon. He said, as soon as I said the cross is out the front, he said immediately, we work for the other side, for Beelzebub. And I knew immediately that this was Beelzebub that I was speaking with. He refused to take his glasses off, went by one name, and his dog, a mangy looking dog, as soon as it saw me when we approached, that dog came running to me and sat on my feet, leaning up against me, and so I patted him. That's when I saw that he was mangy, and he had like a pustule or boil on top of him, and he felt like he was trying to get away from his master. Every other encounter we'd had along the beach with others felt like meeting prophets of old, and it had to do with walking their dogs, taking the names of their dogs, etc. It was an amazing several days, weeks, once Yah left the building. Blues Clues. Alright, so here's Beelzebub, and I invited him to the house to come and get silver water that we could cure his dog, because he wasn't worried about his dog. He wasn't going to pay the money it took for an antibiotic shot or anything like that, too costly. The dog could die for all he cared. And I said, well, come, this is where the address part of it came, just come to the house. And when I was telling him about the silver water, he said flippantly, oh, you know, I could get some too. And I said, yes, absolutely. By the end of the conversation, he shook each of our hands firmly, and his comment was, you people are really nice. As if it was like, as if he'd been lied to all of his life and suddenly found that we were really nice and friendly, wanting to cure his dog and himself, no problem. Now, what was interesting, as we walked away, he kept saying, I'll send, his dog's name was Pippi, I'll send Pippi with you. And I said, no, come to the door. He said, I'll send Pippi with you and she'll come back to me. And I said, no, come to the door yourself. So I walked away and I said to the girls, he won't come. And that was Beelzebub. Now, what was interesting, because he'd said that Pippi had done, that's what Pippi does. She would follow people at his command and then go back to him. Well, he was commanding Pippi to follow us. And Pippi just sat down, legs crossed, looked at him, refusing to obey. And I said to the girls then, the light, free of us, has dispelled the darkness, and he has lost his power. We walked to that end of the beach, and it looked like a total wasteland with massive trees up. It was a really quite eerie scene. And then we continued to walk to the beach until we came to our normal entry and exit to Toowoomba Beach. But it was the girl Amber who said he was backing away from this big time. So you can imagine my feeling of awe as I found the bush chapel, the old wooden cross, the stone altar in Emerald, Queensland. And so I placed the wooden cross from the Emerald Isle, Ireland, against the centre stone to take this photograph as a marker in time. And it felt for me that I had completed a course that had been set before me. The morning that Yah left, and the presentation of the information that came to him, and then his download and working it out, confirming absolutely beyond the shadow of a doubt who he was and is. He simply said from his captain's chair, I have finished my course. So, Emerald, Central Queensland, crosses Ireland, Yah's ancestral bloodline. That was my weekend. I'll be back when there's another message that needs to be shared. And remember that these messages are only being given in the first place because it's a fait accompli. There's no going back as far as the enemy is concerned. It's all crumbling in their world. So, live in love and joy.